Part 67. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 670. Facing the two reporters, Lu Feng had a gloomy expression, and directly denounced them as shameless, with an indescribable anger. Enterprise is not easy. Take GFN Electronics as an example. We have nearly 50,000 employees. Behind each worker is a family. They work hard and support their families. The company produces products and sells them. Only if you have money can you give them wages, but what about the profits? Lu Feng said to the two of them. They took all the profits away, so how will the company develop? Do workers always get such meager wages? Now the ordinary employees of GFN Electronics can get more than 300 salary a month. Our company needs to develop, but the other party squeezes our profits like this and talks to us with a condescending attitude. We can't accept it. I can what to do? Cut wages and increase their hours in exchange for a small profit. If you say that I am a capitalist, whoever is the capitalist, who takes the highest profit, should be scolded. If our home appliance export starts in this way, then there will definitely be a large number of business closures. I want to warn trade agency, don't confuse here, we won't give in. During the more than 1 hour interview, Lu Feng scolded the whole article. He basically did not mention the relationship between the two companies, but kept talking about the relationship between the manufacturing industry and the export agency. Back in the office, Lu Feng sorted out his thoughts and asked, how does the office look like? Let's make a decision recently. Let Wei Yandan and Zhu Lidong move in. It's a hassle to make phone calls every day. Currently there is a good one, but it's a little expensive. It has 3 floors, a total of 2,400 square meters, and a rent of 200,000 yuan a year. Lu Cheng also hopes that they will move here soon, otherwise Lu Feng will have something to do. Ask him first. Some things are not up to him, but if Lu Feng asks, he has to ask other people in charge. The price is okay. Is more than 2,000 square meters enough? Lu Feng pondered. 2,000 square meters is indeed enough for an ordinary enterprise, but GFN Electronics is different. There are many subordinate enterprises. The heads of these companies must gather at the headquarters. Once the foreign trade is formed, the overseas department will also be established, and a large number of people will enter. I called Mr. Wei yesterday. The number of people in each department is estimated to be around 800. One person is 3 square meters. It seems that it is not enough. I will find a suitable one, Lu Cheng said. It is best to have room for expansion. If we build a new building, it is estimated that we will not be able to settle in within 5 years. It is not good for the various departments of the headquarters to be too scattered. First, we will look for 3,000 or 4,000 square meters, Lu Feng said. Looking at the time, it was already 6:30 in the evening. It was dark outside. Lu Feng stood up and was about to go back to the hotel. The phone on his desk suddenly rang. Lu Cheng picked up the phone and said, which one? I'm looking for Brother Feng. Feng Xiao's voice came from the phone. Mr. Lu, I'm looking for you, Lu Cheng hurriedly shouted. Lu Feng, who had just reached the door, turned back and answered the phone. Which one? Brother Feng, it's me, Feng Xiao said excitedly on the phone. I bought a ticket to fly to Suzhou tomorrow. You are in Suzhou, right? I'm in Shenzhen, Lu Feng replied. Fortunately, I made a phone call, otherwise I ran to the wrong place, and it would be faster tomorrow. Brother Feng, see you tomorrow. Okay, are you here to play? Or, Lu Feng asked. I'm looking for you, we haven't seen you for so long, Feng Xiao replied. Oh, I thought it was your dad who asked you to come here. When the time comes to look at the finances, I'll have someone prepare the ledger, Lu Feng said to him. What time will you be there? I'll have someone go pick you up. I should be in the morning shift. Brother Feng, see you tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, Feng Xiao was still very happy. Before, Mr. Feng asked him to check the situation of Lu Feng's company, especially after his divorce, his state, and the company's operation. Feng Xiao's feelings for Lu Feng are still lifelike, and he doesn't like to communicate with his work status. Mr. Feng also sees that he is somewhat resistant. Don't worry about it anymore, let him go to Lu Feng to catch up. Mr. Feng felt that if Feng Xiao was too formal, he wouldn't be able to find out. Instead, it was his daily chat that could really reveal it. In the hotel, Su Yorong watched newspapers and TV all day, and heard a lot of news from the outside world. She thought it was difficult to deal with the current situation Lu Feng was facing. The initiative is in the hands of GF trade agents, and public opinion is useless no matter how big it is. As soon as Lu Feng returned to the hotel, Su Yorong went out of the room, knocked on his door, and opened the door. Lu Feng remembered when he saw her and asked, "Have you eaten yet?" "When you ask me if I have eaten, I will starve to death if I eat again." Su Yorong rolled his eyes and said, "After eating, let's go in and talk a little about the trade agency today." Lu Feng looked at her, wearing a hotel nightgown, and said, "Let's talk at the door." "Are you interesting?" Su Yorong was amused by his defensiveness, and said with a smile, "You think you are a sweet potato, don't you? I stay by your side to investigate you as an investor. Just let me ask you a question, do you want money?" Lu Feng moved away. Su Yorong walked in wearing slippers, sat on the sofa and said, "I don't think it's useless for you to keep making trouble like this. If you want to go overseas, you still have to rely on others. There's no use at all." "Then what do you want me to do?" Lu Feng sat down and lit a cigarette for himself, stared at her and asked, "You give an idea, how to solve this problem." Su Yorong reached out and took Lu Feng's cigarette, took a puff and said, "There's nothing like this in business. The needle is pointed at Mei Mang, and the other party holds the right to life and death for you to go to see. If you should bow your head, just bow your head. Let's build the market first. Didn't I tell you before that you have to pay tuition for anything you do? I don't want to pay this tuition now, I think I have the ability to do it myself." Lu Feng drew another cigarette. Su Yorong was a little dissatisfied with Lu Feng's actions. Leaning on the sofa, Erlang's legs were raised, her nightgown was drooping on the sofa, her snow-white thighs, along with her smoky posture, was extraordinarily provocative. Lu Feng sat opposite her and looked at her gloomily. Faced with such a situation, you can't force it. 91 points can't be accepted. Let's talk about it, talk about 82, do it first, build a good relationship with Li Guangfa, and slowly explore the industry. Su Yorong was a little annoyed when she said that. How could someone do this in business? People like Li Guangfa, if she were Lu Feng, would definitely be a softie. Coaxing a bloated businessman is not easy. Su Yorong's behavior is normal. Most people would choose this way when faced with such a situation, but Lu Feng was unusual. If you insist on doing this, the board of directors of Chen's Capital may have to re-evaluate the investment in you. The previous valuation of 15 billion is also the valuation of the future overseas market. Su Yorong still wanted to convince Lu Feng, there is nothing wrong with investing in GFN Electronics, and she also wants to get some rebates. My company, I have the final say. It's boring to scare me with investment. It's getting late, you can go back, Lu Feng said solemnly. Seeing that she didn't convince him, Su Yorong immediately pinched the cigarette butt in the ashtray, put on a smile, stood beside Lu Feng, and said with a whimper, "Why are you still angry? I'm not here for your own good, tell me what you're thinking." "I didn't think about it. I know this in my heart. Didn't I ask you to contact those companies before? Did you get in touch?" Lu Feng asked. "Those companies are easy to contact. With my current position, who should I call and the other party won't answer?" Su Yorong gently pulled Lu Feng's arm and whispered softly, "After contacting them? It's impossible for people to trust you and cooperate with you for no reason. Lu Feng turned his face to look at her, frowned slightly and said, "Can you talk properly? Don't talk, go back to your room and sleep." Su Yorong saw that he was so confident, although he didn't know where the confidence came from, but Lu Feng was really unsure when he did things. If the board of directors knew about this, he would definitely not invest another billion yuan. "Let's sign the contract first, so as not to make a big mess and spread it to Xiangjiang," Su Yorong suggested. "That's okay, then let the team over there come over these days and sign a contract." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he suddenly thought that Feng Xiao was coming tomorrow, and said, "By the way, Feng Xiao will come over tomorrow, is it convenient for you to see him?" "He's coming." Su Yorong was startled, stood up and said, "I can't see him. The sick leave I asked for from the company was declared to be going to Europe for beauty treatments and vacations. If Mr. Feng knew that I was here, he would go to Europe. How could he possibly tolerate me?" Lu Feng knew that what she was most afraid of now was Mr. Feng. With a single word, she could fall from the altar. "How long has he been here? Does he want to follow you?" Su Yorong asked. "Yes, Mr. Feng asked him to come over. I guess I also want to see my situation. You know Feng Xiao, he doesn't like family business very much, and he is quite active around me. I don't know how long he stays there." "Got it." Lu Feng looked at her and said. Su Yorong felt that it was too late. If Feng Xiao didn't leave, she would not be able to appear by Lu Feng's side, let alone bring a bunch of people to sign the contract. "Why don't you go back to Xiangjiang first and get in touch with the people in charge of those companies? As for the investment, it's fine at the end of the year, it's only October." Lu Feng rubbed his face sleepily and said, "That's it? Well, go back to rest first." End of the year? If Lu Feng really had the confidence to take control of foreign trade in his own hands before the end of the year, then 1 billion yuan would not be able to get so much equity. Su Yorong worked so hard to become a shareholder in GFN Electronics, just to make a contribution in front of the board of directors. As soon as she became a shareholder, the company made new achievements. This is definitely a cost-effective investment, and her position within the company will be more stable. Thinking of this, Su Yorong secretly thought to herself, she must not leave, sign the contract first. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 671. When will he come tomorrow? Su Yorong thought for a while and said, "How about I ask the company's legal team to draw up the contract first, and bring it over to sign it tomorrow morning." What Su Yorong was thinking, Lu Feng knew best, but the contracts he signed with Sun Hongkai and Chen's Capital were all equity contracts that did not accept equity dilution. If they get 7.5% of the equity, as long as Lu Feng remains the major shareholder, their equity will not change. If a large enterprise develops to the later stage, not to mention the 7.5% equity, it will be 2 or 3. The stakes are all major shareholders. He's also on the boat early tomorrow morning. It's the end of the year. Lu Feng put out the cigarette butt in the ashtray, stood up and said, "It's getting late, you go back to rest early." Su Yorong began to get anxious. She originally thought of sleeping here tonight, but now she has no more thoughts, and hurried back to her room. Su Yorong first called several major shareholders of the board of directors. On the phone, several major shareholders agreed that Su Yorong did not need to come back. Now Lu Feng agreed to raise funds at a valuation of 15 billion. Once GFN Electronics. If you have mastered overseas market channels, it is impossible to achieve this valuation. No matter how Su Yorong stayed by the board of directors, the matter between her and Mr. Feng could not take precedence over the company's interests. During this time, they hurry up to draw up a contract and sign it as soon as possible. Su Yorong was also thinking, or else send someone she can trust to stay here and avoid the limelight for a while, but then she thought about it, Another person to stay here would have little effect on Lu Feng. Su Yurong and Lu Feng were evenly matched opponents. Both of them knew what the other party needed in them. If they were replaced by someone who was on business, there was no prospect of any cooperation. After GFN Electronics opens up overseas trade, its valuation will definitely skyrocket. Even if it goes to Wall Street for financing, it will be favored by a lot of capital. After facing the world, companies like GFN Electronics will not lack investors. Capital, even Sun Hung Kai has to make additional investment. Otherwise, it will be controlled by foreign capital. After thinking about it, Su Yurong decided to call the vice president of the company and ask him to contact the companies responsible for transferring GFN electronic goods internationally. Whether it is for an individual or a company, being a person who can be used will never be abandoned. Tonight, the lights in a large hotel were shining brightly. Li Guangfa was holding a wine glass with the crowd to exchange glasses. This was a temporary organized party, and they were all foreign trade agencies. Li Guang found that he is also very popular in the industry. He has mastered a new outlet, and everyone hopes to get some useful news from him. At the same time, this afternoon, these companies began to frantically contact companies in Xiangjiang to find new export opportunities. As long as there are international buyers, are you afraid that you will not be able to find a seller? Everyone be quiet, let President Li tell everyone a few words, a man in his 50s said to everyone. He was the vice president of the trade association. Although the former GF trade agent also joined the association, he was only an inconspicuous character. However, today, Li Guangfa is surrounded by stars like the moon, and there is an endless stream of people toasting. This is how foreign trade is. Yesterday you might want to die, but today you want to borrow another 500 years from the sky. The ups and downs are huge. Li Guangfa stood in front of the crowd, his heart bursting with pride, looking at the quiet crowd, with an inexplicable smug smile on his face. He cleared his throat and said, "Many friends ask me about the direction of the TV, and some people ask me, the quality of the TV sets from GFN Electronics or something. What I want to tell you is that those TV sets are really average in terms of technology, but the international market is very broad, and the domestic home appliance industry is about to become the largest export item. My international partner has called me several times, urging me to continue supplying. But what I want to say is that this time is not our family's business, and in terms of home appliances going to see, the entire industry needs to share the same hatred, and first set the rules for manufacturers, that is, 91% of profits, not vicious competition. Some peers are really boneless. If we all only accept 91% of profits, and the external sales channels are in our hands, wouldn't we let us earn the money? Think about it, in order to run more orders, you will get 28% today, and tomorrow he will be 37%. In the end, no one can make money. Li Guangfa said to the crowd, I also know that there must be some people who want to exchange profits for orders, but as long as we persist for 1 year, we will earn the money of those people for 10 years in 1 year. Li Guangfa's remarks made the people present red-eyed. One ship will earn tens of millions. Once the export is opened, it will not be a problem to ship 2 or 3 ships a month. After a year, it will be worth several hundred million. As for manufacturers who can't stand it, they don't care about it, even if they go out of business, it doesn't matter to them. Everyone at the scene was excited and raised their glasses to celebrate. These people were like a group of bloodthirsty ants, planning to eat an elephant clean. Especially next year, major manufacturers will start to compete in the full array of home appliances. At that time, the domestic market will be a Red Sea, and the overseas market will be one of the few places where they can expand. At that time, Lu Feng will never have such a tough side in front of Li Guangfa. Everyone drank until midnight, and Li Guangfa was a little too drunk, and a boss next to him whispered, Mr. Li, I heard that many manufacturing industries are on Lu Feng's side. If suppliers and distributors are really fighting each other, that's a dead end. Impossible, Li Guangfa waved his hand and said, what is Lu Feng's reputation in the electronics industry? He is notorious, who would help him? I tell you, those companies will come to me instead, and now I have their fate next year in my hands. Understand? Several people nodded slightly, but the news they received was not like this. Li Guangfa's idea was right, but unfortunately it was the idea of a small businessman. He felt that if he mastered the lifeblood of these companies, the other party would obey him obediently and let him be slaughtered. However, some people in the business structure know that the general environment is not good. The next day, the morning papers of various provinces and cities across the country were delivered to the newspapers. The sky was slightly bright, and the air was filled with gloomy coldness. The uncle of the newspapers and magazines sat in his seat and tightened his clothes. Angrily criticizing the chairman of GF Trading, overseas export is a new opportunity, not a tool used to threaten the manufacturing industry. The uncle looked through it and found that it was related to GFN Electronics. He put it aside and picked up another article with the title, General Manager of Panda Electronics. He called on GFN Electronics and GF Trading to calm down and find a new way for the export of home appliances. The uncle looked back and forth, but didn't read it at all. Half of the newspapers were related to GFN Electronics. The first ray of golden sunlight pierced the sky, people went out of their homes, the streets were busy, and the streets were still dirty. Compared with a few years ago, there were more people riding motorcycles, and people's clothes were more colorful. Look like this. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the manufacturing industry across the country was boiling, and so many bigwigs came out to help GFN Electronics, which made many people in the industry unable to figure it out. Does someone like Lu Feng speak for him? But the reality is that today newspapers and TV stations are crowded with bigwigs, who speak for Lu Feng on the platform. Some bigwigs even criticize the trade agency company as a vampire, and the most ruthless one is Lenovo's president Lu. Many companies that rely on overseas markets have been dealt with by these trading companies. The grievances did not end in one day, but they lost their families and their goods could not go out, which was hateful and helpless. If there was any way, these companies would have gotten rid of them long ago, and continuing to choose cooperation is a compromise to the reality. Li Guangfa drank too much last night and woke up at 8:30. When he learned that the matter was so big, he was also surprised. When he arrived at the office, there were a lot of newspapers on the table. Mr. Li, the whole world is scolding us now. The vice president looked at Li Guangfa in a panic, and said anxiously, many TV stations and newspapers want to interview you, those manufacturing executives will end up scolding you, and other colleagues will not dare to speak out. Li Guangfa picked up the newspaper on the table and glanced at it briefly, then burst out laughing, picked up the phone on the table and called GFN Electronics R/U0026D company. He wanted to find Lu Feng. The phone was transferred to the hotel room. Lu Feng was reading a newspaper while having breakfast when he picked up the phone and said, "Who is it?" "Lu Feng, it's me, Li Guangfa. You can do it. I thought you were no longer in the circle, but I didn't expect you to be able to respond," Li Guangfa said sadly. "I really don't have many friends in the circle. Today's situation is not about how much influence I have, but because you have done too much. Let me tell you, if you continue to promote the 91% share of home appliance exports, there will be more. A lot of power will rise," Lu Feng warned. "You better think clearly, buying and selling is not like this." "I figured it out clearly." Li Guangfa sat down on the table, sneered, and said with disdain, "Now that the initiative is in my hands, what about those people who scold you? It seems that you are scolded less often." "Yes, let me tell you, I just like to see you unable to kill me and helpless, and in the end you have to hold your nose and cooperate with me." "Do you think you've got me?" Lu Feng asked with a raised eyebrow. "I'm not going to kill you," I'm going to kill you. Next year in the home appliance war, when you beg me to help you sell the goods. At that time, you begged me, and I won't give you any profit. Now beg me. I'm still useful. Li Guangfu laughed proudly and asked, please beg me. Your laughter, I can't eat my disgusting breakfast, so I hung up. Lu Feng put down the phone after he finished speaking. At the ferry, Feng Xiao got off the boat, followed the flow of people out, reached out to stop a taxi, and galloped towards the R/U0026D company. He didn't take anything but a bag with some clothes in it. Before leaving, Mr. Feng told him, don't be in a hurry to come back, stay for a while. Lu Feng is divorced, ask him what kind of girl he likes. If there is a suitable introduction to him, he can also introduce Feng Xiao a cousin. Get to know Lu Feng. HTT. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 672. The Feng family has a big business, and he doesn't know how many cousins Feng Xiao has. There are many relatives in the Feng family at home and abroad, and many relatives who are unable to fight will also move around. Before leaving, Mr. Feng explains such a matter. It would be a good thing if Lu Feng would like to meet. When they arrived at the R/U0026D company, they first went to see Lu Chang. The two chatted for a while. Lu Chang called Lu Feng and told him that Feng Xiao had arrived. Okay, I'll be at the company in a while. Lu Feng hung up the phone, stood up and prepared to go out. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Su Yurong walking out of her room, looking a little haggard. Obviously she didn't rest well last night. Feng Xiao is here, Su Yurong asked. You're at the company, if you really can't do it, just go back first. Lu Feng walked up to her and said, it's really not suitable for you two to meet. After you go back, help me contact those companies, and at the same time, help me register a company in Dubai. Company, book a luxury hotel, and do these first. Go to Dubai to register a company. Book a hotel? Su Yurong couldn't turn his head around for a while and didn't know what he was going to do, but based on her understanding of Lu Feng, it seemed that he had everything in mind from the very beginning. What are you doing? Su Yurong asked. Let's talk about it when the time comes. You go ahead and sign the contract. We'll talk about it at the end of the year. Lu Feng said to her, don't be in such a hurry. I'm not in a hurry, I'm just advancing this matter according to the schedule. I've been communicating with the board of directors. You never told me that Feng Xiao was coming. Su Yurong's face was no longer visible. A hint of smile. I didn't even know he was coming. Lu Feng spread his hands together with a look of helplessness. I can leave now. Today we sign a letter of intent. At the end of the year, the equity and investment amount of the debt-to-equity swap will remain unchanged. You have to give me a guarantee. I can't guarantee this. If you ask me to sign this kind of agreement, I have to pass the board of directors, so you have the board of directors, Lu Feng said solemnly to her, you do it first. If you want to say that, I will not serve you, including contacting the heads of those companies. I am now the executive director of Chen's Capital. Su Yurong released his big move. The current situation is a bit complicated. It can be understood simply and rudely that Mr. Feng is pinching Su Yurong's neck, Su Yurong is pinching Lu Feng's neck, and Lu Feng is also pinching Su Yurong's neck. Everyone is out of breath. But now everyone needs to let go. Who will let go first is the question. No matter who it is, everyone wants to take the biggest advantage, but there is no solution to this. The two looked at each other for a full 2 minutes, before Su Yurong softened and said in a gentle voice, we need cooperation to strengthen each other. What I want is to gain a firm foothold on the board of directors of Chen's Capital, and what you want is financing. Against Mr. Feng in the board of directors of GFN Electronics, we have a common enemy, and we do not trust each other, which will only benefit others. Lu Feng nodded slightly and said, that makes sense. Actually, I've been clinging to you these past few days, and I also want to upgrade our relationship. I can feel that you don't trust me, at least now we are inseparable. Su Yorong looked at him and said sincerely, or else, go back to your room to upgrade. There's not enough time, let's go another day, Lu Feng said casually. I'm going to sharpen my gun. Then I'll give you the bottom line and add 200 million, Lu Feng thought for a while and said, the world needs a lot of money, and next year's action is very big, and home appliances will definitely be a hot money-burning war next year. I can talk to the board of directors, but not 200 million, but 50 million to 100 million. Su Yorong looked at Lu Feng and said, I have to add a condition, you understand? No, you are so interested in me, Lu Feng asked with a puzzled face. It's me who believes in this relationship, and I need it too. I'm a woman in her 30s, why don't I need it? You still lack a man. What do you think of me? In recent years, I have never touched a man except you. Lu Feng thought for a moment, then nodded and said, that's right. Okay, deal. Okay, let's talk first. Let's go back to the house and go back to the house. Su Yorong put a smile on his face, and stretched out his arms to wrap his arms around Lu Feng's waist and was about to return to the room. I have to go to the company, you can do it first. Lu Feng took her hand away, turned around and left. In the company, Feng Xiao sat in the reception room and read the newspaper, his face was not good. He originally thought that the biggest crisis Lu Feng was facing now was his absence after divorce, but GFN Electronics was facing a bigger crisis. Feng Xiao ran to Liukan's office with the newspaper, knocked on the door and asked, Mr. Lu, why did you get stuck with the overseas trade agent? How is the progress now? This. Lu Cheng didn't dare to talk nonsense in the face of Feng Xiao. Lu Feng told him, no matter what, Feng Xiao represents the investor, no matter how good the relationship is, hundreds of millions of funds are thrown away go down, who doesn't care? You can ask Mr. Lu about the specifics, I'm just in charge of research and development. Lu Cheng pushed it to Lu Feng. I see that many newspapers are reporting today, and the chairman of many companies in mainland China has come forward. The matter seems to be quite big. If it doesn't work, I will call my dad and ask him to think of a way, Feng Xiao said anxiously. What's the big deal, just call your dad. Lu Feng's voice came from the door. Following the voice, Lu Feng stepped in. The smile on his face was like a spring breeze, and he looked too proud. Lu Cheng was stunned when he saw him in such a state. Brother Feng, you have come. Feng Xiao saw that Lu Feng was happy, and he took the newspaper and said, I see that there is a lot of trouble. The foreign trade on the mainland is going to Hong Kong. I asked my dad to help me and ask. Maybe you don't have to be restricted by them. Restricted by him? I can live with him. Lu Feng walked to the chair and sat down, lit a cigarette, crossed his legs and said, don't look at who I am, your dad gives it to me. I've invested so much money, I can't handle this, and I won't do it. Feng Xiao knew that Lu Feng had the ability, but after reading the newspaper, he felt that this matter could not be done. Brother Feng, what are you going to do? Feng Xiao asked. Business secrets. Lu Feng looked at him and asked, have you had breakfast yet? Have not eat yet. Let's go, let's eat with you. Lu Feng stood up and put his arms around Feng Xiao's shoulders and went out, asking, how is your dad doing recently? It's an old problem, and I feel a lot better recently, Feng Xiao often said honestly. The body is stronger than anything else. The two went to the restaurant downstairs while talking, and ordered 2 breakfasts to eat. Lu Feng ate half of his breakfast, but he was not very hungry. He asked Feng Xiao, you are the vice president of Sun Hung Kai now. Are you busy? It's hard to come and stay for a while. I don't really like financial companies. It's mainly because the executives are busy. I just take a look and make some investments myself. It's the same with me or without me. I'll definitely stay longer when I come back. Feng Xiao looked at Lulu. Feng cared, brother Feng, are you feeling uncomfortable at all? Lu Feng didn't know how to answer this question for a while. He and Feng Xiao hadn't seen each other for more than half a year, and he didn't know what he was like now. Once people enter the family business and feel the responsibility on their shoulders, they will grow very fast. To tell the truth, I was afraid that he would turn his head and tell Mr. Feng, but if he said that he was not uncomfortable, the other party would think that he was ruthless, and the image of Zhang Feng was completely ruined. Let's not talk about this, the future is what we should pursue. Look forward. Lu Feng picked up the topic. Sister Xiao Yan is such a good person. How can you leave? Feng Xiao sighed sadly, looking quite helpless, but he grew up in a rich family, and he is used to the ins and outs of marriage. It's okay, some people parted for a better reunion. Lu Feng seemed to be comforting Feng Xiao, but he was actually comforting himself more. By the way, you want to talk about something recently? I have a cousin who can introduce you to it, Feng Xiao asked. I don't want to talk about it. Lu Feng waved his hand and refused very succinctly. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked, do you want to introduce me, or did your father mention it? Feng Xiao is not a fool. Ever since he met Lu Feng, he has always separated himself from his father, always trying to find out who it is, intentionally or not. I want to introduce you. Feng Xiao stared at Lu Feng and spoke. Feng Xiao doesn't have much talent in lying, and after thinking about it for a while, Lu Feng thinks that this must be brought up by Mr. Feng. Can you get to know me? How tall are you? Are you in good shape? Lu Feng asked with interest. Feng Xiao doesn't know why, but now he has an indescribable disgust for Lu Feng, as if he has changed. The feeling he used to have is no longer there. You have only been divorced for a few days, and you have started to think about this. Get to know more people. You're still angry when you introduce me. Lu Feng looked at him and laughed. My dad said it before he left, Feng Xiao said baldly. Hearing this, Lu Feng knew in his heart that this so-called cousin really wanted to see him. Mr. Feng had already stood up from his hospital bed nervously. Lu Feng had to let him go back to the hospital bed with peace of mind. He was stared at by investors, and no one could do anything. Introduced by your dad, I'll see you even more. I'll call out for a cup of tea when I have time. Lu Feng glanced at the time and said, I should be busy. Why don't you go back to the hotel to rest first? Look at you. With that tired look on his face, go back to sleep. Okay, I'll go to the hotel first. Feng Xiao seemed a little angry. He stood up with a straight face and walked away. He turned around and asked, is it the 5-star hotel next door? You can live anywhere else you want. You've changed. Feng Xiao stared at Lu Feng, turned his head and left. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 673. Lu Feng looked at his retreating back, raised his eyebrows, and muttered, I've changed. Lu Feng has never changed, it's just that Feng Xiao has to learn to see the world slowly and clearly. Based on Mr. Feng's expectations for him, it is obvious that he hopes that he will accept most of Sun Hongkai's assets. He needs to grow into a real businessman, and businessman camaraderie is cheap. Lu Feng stood up and went back to the company. In the morning, the two industries of manufacturing and export trade agency were completely blown up. What was originally a confrontation between the two companies has obviously evolved into a confrontation between the two industries. It's so big that everyone can't believe it. That is to say, Lu Feng can cause such a big thing. Changing a company may not be able to do such a big thing. When it comes to doing things, whether it is an opponent or a friend, he is very good at it. Office buildings are the most indispensable thing in Shenzhen now. High-rise buildings are rising rapidly. Now Shenzhen claims to have one building completed every day. On the desk is the location of the latest group headquarters office. Lu Feng sat down and asked, "Is there any movement from Li Guangfa?" "No, I heard that they had some company gatherings last night, and I think they have just sobered up now." Lu Cheng took out the folder on the table and put it in front of Lu Feng and said, "I found a few office buildings yesterday, all of which are 5,000 square meters. The venue, take a look." Lu Feng opened the folder and looked at it for a while. The rent was still acceptable, and he said, "Let's settle on the Sega building. There are a lot of companies there, and it's not far from here. After renting it out, we can simply decorate the interior and separate it out. Settle in as soon as possible." Seeing that Lu Cheng gave it to himself, he really didn't want to care about it anymore, and said, "Mr. Lu, there are a lot of things in the R/U0026D company, should I tell President Wei?" Lu Feng reacted, raised his head and smiled at him, and said, "I'll call him, you can do your job." While talking, Lu Feng picked up the phone and called Wei Yandan. "Which one?" Wei Yandan's capable voice came from the other end of the phone. "It's me, Lu Feng." Lu Feng leaned on his chair and said, "The office building here has been settled. There have been a lot of things going on recently, especially when some news was released to the outside world and could not be communicated in time. Recently, let the top management come. After that, get the tables, chairs, and benches ready and move in as soon as possible." "Okay, I'll have a meeting now. I'll book a ticket and arrive in Shenzhen within 2 days." Wei Yandan asked, "Mr. Lu, is there anything else?" "Let's talk when we come." Lu Feng hung up the phone and muttered, "I have to hurry up and chat with Deputy Mayor Lu recently. Mr. Lu, you should also walk around with the municipal people more to let them know, we're doing a great thing." Lu Cheng sat down and sighed, "I've actually been telling them that we are doing a great thing, but they also said that the R/U0026D subsidy is a state-owned enterprise, and we do it ourselves. There is no subsidy, in my opinion, it's mainly because they don't count their performance. Let's not talk about whether it is subsidized or not, the land is the key, even if we pay some money." Lu Feng was a little worried. This place is not a small place, without Butcher Zhang, people still don't eat pigs with hair. Jiafeng, the volume of electronics is the leader in other cities, and there is competitive pressure here. Lu Cheng was a little surprised when he heard that Lu Feng was going to pay. With his personality, he would take food wherever he went. If he was ready to pay, it would be easier. "Mr. Lu, if you want to pay, I can go to Vice Mayor Lu to find out." Lu Cheng volunteered to ask, "How much do you plan to pay per mu?" "Let's bleed a little bit." Lu Feng sighed lightly and said, "How about 50 yuan per mu? $50 per acre?" Liuqin's face was full of bitterness after listening to it. Now, the market price of office land in Shenzhen is 20,000 to 30,000 yuan per mu, 50 yuan. Even industrial land can't be so cheap. He could see that, for Lu Feng, if he didn't pick up money when he went out, he would be losing money. "Can you add more?" "You go talk to him," Lu Feng asked. No, Lu Cheng's head shook like a rattle. Said, "Recently, the research and development work is very busy, you can sit in the office, I will have a meeting." In the morning, Wei Yandan convened all the executives for a meeting, went to Shenzhen in batches, and handed over to Liuqin about the development of the headquarters. The arrangement is complicated. Wei Yandan set up a temporary team. This team is responsible for the allocation of headquarters departments, coordination between the two places, emergency contact, etc., and at the same time, it has to continue to manage things in the factory, which requires a transitional time. Wei Yandan also understood that when she first came up, she could not control a major department like the marketing department, so she simply handed over the ownership to Zhu Lidong, and the marketing department was responsible for going to Shenzhen recently. The manufacturing industry is already full of quarrels, and there are constant calls between major companies. Everyone is inquiring about the latest situation. Now the electronics industry urgently needs someone to stand up, and a leader is needed to lead everyone to talk with the foreign trade agency industry. Which company can stand up and settle this matter? The prestige in the circle in the future will definitely be first class, and the real big brother will be the one who can make things right. Mr. Zheng, do you want to stand up and say something about this? Skyworth Huang Hongsheng asked on the phone. Now at this juncture, the opposite trade and export companies are all twisted together, let's not talk about profits. 55, that is, 37, and you can go out this way. Zheng Gongjian understands that he has just entered the industry, and although he controls the leading enterprises in the industry, it is not good to take the lead in this matter. It's useless for me to come out and talk. Mr. Zheng thought about it and said, I'm not in Shenzhen right now. If you have a team, I can participate. I mean this, I'll call the local boss over for a meal first, and I'll invite you when you come, Huang Hongsheng tentatively said. Okay, you can do it as you see fit. As long as it's good for the industry, I don't care. After a few chats, the two hung up the phone. Huang Hongsheng called Lenovo's president Lu again. Not only Huang Hongsheng was busy, but TCL's president Li was also busy on the phone. For many business executives, this is a good opportunity to get ahead. The most important thing is that if you become a representative to talk with GF Trading, you will be able to have more initiative and be able to grasp the news and trends at the first time. Now everyone shares the same hatred, and next year, the home appliance industry will do a real job, and every extra profit point overseas will be able to last longer than other companies. In 1993, the home appliance manufacturing industry developed very rapidly, and there were many domestic manufacturers. No one dared to say that they would survive after many years. Some small and medium-sized enterprises could not even support the large enterprises. Now, no one dares to imagine that the domestic economy will grow so high in the future, and the domestic demand market will be so large. The data predicted by enterprises at major enterprise summits and symposiums, based on per capita GDP, will be able to afford consumption in the next 3 to 5 years. The population of large color TVs, washing machines, VCDs, air conditioners, and refrigerators is about 120 million. The future market has been fixed, and the companies that supply these markets will only need half of what they are now, and the remaining companies will face bankruptcy. In many so-called professional market predictability assessment reports, it is believed that there will be 2 or 3 domestic home appliance companies in the future, and all other companies will be killed. Now that there are opportunities for overseas exports, who doesn't want to seize them? After 11 o'clock, Lu Feng watched the progress of product development all morning. Just as he was about to eat, Lu Cheng opened the door and walked in, saying, Mr. Lu, there is an invitation. No, Lu Feng said without raising his head. Huang Ongshen's bureau, TCL's Li Dongsheng will also go. Lu Cheng said that the invitation card was placed on the table. Basically, all the electronics industry bosses in Shenzhen will go. When Lu Feng heard such a situation, he raised his head and took the invitation card. When he opened it, he saw that it read, a new breakthrough has been found in the export of home appliances, and the foreign trade agent is stuck at the passage to Jinshan and Yinshan, so this industry is changing. At this time, all of you must not fight in the same room, and sincerely invite you to the banquet hall on the 10th floor of Wanbin Hotel to discuss the plan. Below are the names of the inviter and the invitee. Lu Feng put the invitation aside and laughed disdainfully. Lu Cheng said, do you think he wants to get ahead, or to take advantage? I also heard that Li Dongsheng also wanted to set up a game, but it was set at night, it was too late. One step, I am afraid that these people will package us and sell them at a good price. I have to eat this meal. I have to see what it means to be in harmony with each other. Lu Feng stood up and stretched out his hand to take the invitation, and said, prepare a car, can you go too? They didn't invite me, Lu Cheng smiled and said, I'll eat in the cafeteria. Then I'll call Feng Xiao. Today I want to see what these people can say, Lu Feng said with great interest and went downstairs. After picking up Feng Xiao at the hotel, the other party was still a little unhappy sitting next to him. Feng Xiao was looking forward to it when he came. The time he spent with Lu Feng's family last year was his happiest time. I didn't sleep well last night. I thought about running around with you after seeing you. Even if I got into someone's car last year, I felt it was a different experience, Feng Xiao sighed and said, after all it's faded. Lighten up. Lighten the hammer, Lu Feng said to him, don't be so sentimental, don't do this in front of me, take you to dinner, and see the world. Feng Xiao didn't know what was wrong. He glanced at Lu Feng and felt that brother Feng should not be so happy at this moment, as if the departure of sister Xiao Yan was a blessing to him. His admiration for Lu Feng is not only about his ability, but more about his happy family. The more he lacks, the more he cares about it. Feng Xiao never envy rich people, only happy families. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 674. The car sped away towards the Wanbin Hotel. Feng Xiao was sulking for a while, and said, I read the newspaper this morning, and in the current situation, I really have no choice but to bow my head, and I also do overseas trade. Know a little more, my dad's friends are engaged in import and export trade, but unfortunately they mainly do food, otherwise they can help you. No need, Lu Feng said nonchalantly, I went to eat today, and by the way, let's see what they are talking about. Do you have a solution? Feng Xiao said in surprise. In his eyes, Lu Feng's calm state was a sure thing. Step by step. The car stopped at the entrance of the hotel, and the doorman opened the door, bowed slightly and said, Welcome to Wanbin Hotel. Get out of the car. Lu Feng got out of the car and walked upstairs. In the banquet hall on the 10th floor, this hall is not large, there are only 3 tables, and people have already arrived. Groups of 3 or 5 gather together to chat, and it is rare for the electronics industry to gather such a complete range. In the crowd, a man of 35 or 6, dressed in a suit, looked quite businesslike. He held a goblet in his hand and chatted with the people around him. He touched the glass from time to time and took a sip. Mr. Huang, you're in a hurry for this meal, and I almost didn't have time to come here. Li Dongsheng walked over and said with a smile, I have eaten at noon, and in order to catch your meal, I almost had to pick my throat. Mr. Li, I can't wait for such a major event related to the development of the industry. Huang Hongfei said with a sad face, I have finally made a new breakthrough overseas, how can those companies take the big bucks? I wanted to stand yesterday. When I came out, I called Mr. Zheng first, for fear that I was not qualified enough. Don't say that, although you are much younger than me. Skyworth was established in 1988, and TCL was established in the 2nd year. You are the big brother in this respect, Li Dongsheng said with a smile, but that smile was a little too fake. It's all brother companies, the industry is good, everything is fine. Mr. Huang was talking, and when he saw Conca's boss, he opened his mouth and said, President Chen, take a seat, are you all there? That. Mavericks, look at the invitation, who hasn't arrived yet? Except for Mr. Lu from GFN Electronics, everyone is here. The 3 looked at each other and muttered in unison, President Lu of GFN Electronics, an insignificant person. Everyone, take your seats. Today, I invite all the industry leaders. Huang Hongfei was talking, the waiter opened the door, and Lu Feng walked in with Feng Xiao striding in, and everyone who had just sat down instantly focused on Lu Feng. Oh, it's starting. Lu Feng took a few steps forward, put his hand on someone's shoulder and said, Am I not here? I'm not late. Everyone saw that the expression on Lu Feng's face was a little uncomfortable. No more talking, no sound. Feng Xiao was stared at by so many bosses. He was not so thick-skinned and a little uncomfortable. He whispered, "Let's take a seat. It seems that it has already started. Let's all look at us. This is called aura, and I don't dare to make a loud noise." Lu Feng said to Feng Xiao, "Go back and tell your dad about my detached status in the mainland industry, you know." Feng Xiao was a little speechless. It wasn't that he didn't know his reputation in the industry. There are two situations in silence. One is that the boss has his own aura, and other people don't dare to breathe at the station. The other is the crowd. No one wants to talk to him. You don't need to ask to know that Lu Feng belongs to the second category. "Mr. Lu is here, it's not too late, just right, take a seat," Huang Hongfei said politely. Lu Feng glanced at him and saw that there were two seats next to Mr. Conca Chen. He walked over and sat down. Chen Weirong was 33 years old and wore black-rimmed glasses. He looked a bit bookish. Yu Guang glanced at Lu Feng and said nothing. "Okay, all the distinguished guests invited today have arrived, so I'll just say a few words. I won't introduce myself, everyone must know it." Huang Hongsheng smiled and said, "Everyone about GF trading. It should be clear to me that after I heard about this, I just felt indignant. The quality and technology of our home appliance industry has been improving rapidly in recent years, and we have indeed gained a certain reputation internationally. Domestic products should be self-improving, but when domestic products are really strong, it is not the embarrassment of the international market that stands in front of us, but the ugly faces of trade agents. I was interviewed by reporters yesterday. I denounce this shameless behavior, and for today's banquet, I invite everyone based on the idea that only if the industry is good, can the company be good, and only if the company is good can the industry develop. I want to bring the whole industry together. No matter what kind of hatred or grudges there was in the past, now we should agree to the outside world. I talked to Secretary Zheng Gongjian of Changhong, and he supported me. On the phone, he said, I have done something that others dare not do. I stood up for this matter. I am a person. I called Lenovo's President Lu, and he very much agreed that I should stand up at this time, unite our entire industry, and be consistent with the outside world. Lu Feng didn't want to listen. Huang Hongsheng just wanted to tell everyone that this time, Skyworth should be the main focus. He got the affirmation of two major figures in the industry. Changhong is the company with the largest share of the domestic electronics market. Lenovo it is one of the few players in the high-end electronics industry. Seeing that Chen Weirong didn't want to talk to him, Lu Feng looked at a man on the right next to Feng Xiao. He was in his 40s, slightly bald and didn't know him. Which company are you from? Lu Feng smiled at him and said, you must not be a home appliance maker. I'm the general manager of Zhonghan Electronics. Lu Feng gave Lu Feng a cold look and said nothing more. Brother Feng, stop talking, there are no friends here. Feng Xiao could see it. Lu Feng didn't believe in this evil. Most of the 30-odd people at the scene didn't know him. As long as they didn't compete, even if they weren't friends, they weren't enemies. Brother, let's celebrate the holidays too. I don't remember such a company. Lu Feng showed a kind smile. The boss glanced at Lu Feng with anger on his face, and said, in 1991, we produced the core components of TV sets. Your GFN Electronics was just established, and it sold accessories at low prices to the outside world. It almost pushed us over. In 1992 we transformed into radios, tape players, etc., you followed up, and this year we transformed again. Lu Feng's face was a little stiff, and he asked, what is the transformation for? Refrigerators, washing machines, air conditioners, and the like, he said with a sullen face. Feng Xiao couldn't listen anymore, and said in a low voice, Brother Feng, stop talking, the revenge of killing your father is nothing more than that. There are still many such companies, and Lu Feng did not target them, but the development of the market is like this. The fight between the big companies on the market will definitely affect some second-tier companies. They only see that. Several opponents, like people side that the beauty is bad, it is because of the life and death of the ugly girl, no one cares at all. Lu Feng coughed, sat up straight and praised, 3 transformations in 3 years, your financing ability is still acceptable. Huang Hongsheng finally finished speaking, and there was sparse applause from the scene. This is why I called everyone here today, and I hope we can unite and advance and retreat together. If the trade agents can be so united, so can we. Therefore, if you have no opinion, sign a joint advance and retreat alliance letter today. As soon as these words came out, everyone began to talk to each other. I don't know how long this so-called alliance book will last. If there is a home appliance war next year, will it still be effective? Then again, in solidarity. Lu Feng and Chen Weirong glanced at each other, scolding inwardly, unite. Most of the people at the scene wanted to strangle Lu Feng. The rapid rise of a company will occupy a lot of market and resources. The market share of large companies has not dropped in the past 2 years. Instead, it has increased due to the expansion of the market. Who is GFN Electronics extruding? They are all second-tier companies like the old brother just now. At present, these industry giants are fighting each other, and no one can kill anyone. The elder brother fights, and the younger brother is killed and injured countless times. Huang Hongfei also felt that there was a grudge between everyone. After all, there is a saying that it is the naked hatred between peers. He took a deep breath and said, this alliance letter is only for trade agents. I won't mention the past, and I won't talk about the future today. Mr. Lu, do you want to make a statement? This is a major event related to the development of the entire industry. Everyone focused their attention on Lu Feng. If there was no Lu Feng today, maybe the atmosphere would be better. Lu Feng stood up and looked around, and said, Mr. Huang said so much, I'm just curious, what is your solution? The biggest trump card in the trade agency industry right now is that the goods can't get out without their hands. Of course everyone gathered their hearts together and went to talk to them. Huang Hongfei said to everyone, they can block a company, but they can't block an industry, and GF Trading will not agree. We are so big, go to talk to the remaining few, and no one will have money without earning. Everyone nodded, agreeing that they came together because of their interests, not monolithic. They were huge and their interests were large enough. They cooperated with half of the companies in the trade agency industry, and the other half could not even drink soup. Hearing this, Lu Feng secretly laughed, the other party is indeed not monolithic, as if this group of people are monolithic. Then I have no opinion, Lu Feng said to him, I can sign, as long as it is good for the industry, I am willing to do it. Since its birth, GFN Electronics has shouldered the mission of prospering the industry. As soon as Lu Feng said this, the audience burst into laughter, and Mr. Chen sat on the side and said with a yin and yang, without you, the industry is very good. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 675. On the mission of industry prosperity. The people present laughed secretly when they heard the mission of GFN Electronics. The industry has shaken so much in recent years, and they blamed it all on Lu Feng. If there was no GFN Electronics, it was Chang Hong who started the price war in the last life. From the mid-1990s to the end of the 1990s, if you know a little about the events of that year, you will know how cruel the title of Chang Hong's price butcher was in those days. In the late 1990s, Kingsoft declared a war on piracy and started the behavior of price butcher in the software industry. It was also this time that Mr. Lei appeared on CCTV News. Since Mr. Lu has no opinion, That's fine. I also said that what happened in the past has nothing to do with the present, and what happens in the future has nothing to do with the present. Everyone came together for the same goal, and what we have to do is, let's get through the difficulties together. Huang Hongfei said to everyone. In a while, the proposal letter of the alliance to advance and retreat will be sent to everyone and signed. The crowd drank in unison and applauded. The food was ready. Lu Feng picked up his chopsticks and started to eat, poured himself a glass of wine, and glanced at the others on the table, all of whom looked away. Obviously, no one wants to have this drink with him. Municipal, in the small cafeteria on the second floor, a man in his 50s at the dining table, dressed in 3 or 7 points, suit pants, white shirt, and a little gray on the temples, said to everyone, "Sit down." Everyone was seated, and Deputy Mayor Lu sat next to this person. As the food was served, the atmosphere at the scene was a little cloudy, and everyone didn't talk much, probably because they didn't drink. "What happened to GFN Electronics recently?" the man asked the Deputy Mayor Lu next to him. "They seem to have some commercial disputes," Deputy Mayor Lu replied cautiously. "Didn't you talk about it? You want to move in? What about the progress?" "We are still discussing, mainly because there is a big difference in land use. Lu Feng, chairman of GFN Electronics, wants to build a group building and wants a piece of land," Deputy Mayor Lu whispered. "It's a good thing, the building can't be moved after it's built. This construction is in the city. Such a large building must require a lot of people, and it will also drive the economy." He ate 2 mouthfuls of dishes, chopsticks in his hand, shaking in front of him. He said, "I know this company has not been established for a long time. It is very famous in Suzhou. I can't keep it there. I went to a meeting a few days ago and talked about it." Deputy Mayor Lu thought to himself, it's not that he couldn't keep it, Lu Feng probably let him out. What he means is that the land is given away for free, and then the land is mortgaged to borrow money from the local bank to build the building. Deputy Mayor Lu looked at the others and said in a low voice, he came out of Suzhou and was anxious to become a group because the tax-free policy will expire soon, and based on what I know about this company, I am afraid that it will not receive any tax within 3 to 5 years. The other party was stunned when he heard this, and said, "This method? I have also heard a little recently, take land, and then mortgage the bank in exchange for funds. He did it in the beginning. When he made GMA Foods, he adopted policies from all over the country. In less than a year, he established more than a dozen branch factories all over the country." Deputy Mayor Lu covered his mouth with his hand and lowered his voice. Said, he made his fortune by this. The other party pondered for a while, lit a cigarette, and said, "Is this company investing a lot in R/U00260? I read a document this year, and the ranking of R/U00260 investment shows that this company is quite high. It is true that they have not been profitable so far, and it is also because of the large investment in research and development. Of course, there are reasons for the rapid development." The other party nodded, took a puff of cigarette, and said earnestly, "The local area needs to develop the economy, but it can't develop the stupid economy and the rough economy. We must have long-term goals and learn to invest. We can't work in these low-end industries for a lifetime, only research and development. The future is the future, and GFN Electronics is not unacceptable to this condition, but it cannot be opened again, understand?" Deputy Mayor Lu nodded again and again. GFN Electronics land can be given, but no second GFN Electronics can appear. Once this opening is opened, other companies will come after it. Recently, I have also paid attention to this matter. Many companies are responding, and I hope to mediate it. Taking advantage of this trend, hold a forum to bring the two parties together to regulate the industry. Take a look and give a big word about our business environment. I'll do it right after I eat. Quickly, I must publicize the spirit of Shenzhen, the business environment, atmosphere, and the spirit of serving enterprises, and also effectively promote and solve this matter for them, Lu Fushi Long replied. Deputy Mayor Lu couldn't figure out why he suddenly mentioned GFN Electronics. As for investing in research and development, it is a matter of respect, then it is two different things to be respected and to get real money. A commendation meeting. What he didn't know was that he had already heard some rumors when he went to a meeting in the province. Next year, the state will focus on promoting research and development work, and subsidies will be given. For some cities, there are tasks and goals. The industrial upgrade has entered the deep water area. The state hopes to go further. It needs to be vigorously promoted in research and development. In the restaurant, everyone was shoving cups and changing cups during this meal, and the atmosphere was very good. It seemed that when they competed, they all smiled like a nightmare. Once Lu Feng got involved, he became everyone's enemy. Lu Feng didn't care about that much. Anyway, he was quite full, and Feng Xiao was also quite full. He watched all the clinking glasses and toasts around him. There was a hustle and bustle. Lu Feng's place was desolate, and even the two of them were left to sit here at the table. Everyone went to another table. Brother Feng, are you so unpopular here? Feng Xiao was a little afraid to believe. You can't say that, they also fought each other, but they fought back and forth, and I was different. Basically, all the companies present had confronted GFN Electronics in the market, and they were all beaten by me. You don't even know your own mother, so sit next to me. Lu Feng pointed to Mr. Chen's seat and said, there was a kid who got financing from Wall Street back then, and with his technology, made me go bankrupt. It's not that they don't drink with me, they're shameless. Feng Xiao nodded slightly, thinking to himself, speaking is really an art, and it can make the popularity so refreshing and refined. The waiter came over with a tray with a letter of advice on it. Lu Feng took a look at it, and it was basically nonsense. He picked up the pen and signed the name on the last page, and put it back on the tray. Let's go back, and do your own thing. Lu Feng stood up and walked towards Huang Hongfei. Since he was leaving, he should say hello and said, Mr. Huang, there is still something in my company, so let's go first. Okay, you're busy first, Huang Hongfei said politely, and continued to chat with the others with a glass of wine. Deputy Mayor Lu still has the ability to execute, and this kind of thing must be done quickly. After dinner, a meeting was held, a high-end forum on manufacturing and trade was held, and the executives of manufacturing companies and overseas export agents were called. Have a chat. As soon as Lu Feng arrived at the company, the call came. Lu Cheng picked up the phone and chatted for a while, then called Lu Feng and said, Vice Mayor Liu's. I'm Lu Feng. Lu Feng took the phone and said, is there a breakthrough in land? Deputy Mayor Lu on the other end of the phone laughed and said, you know everything, I'll tell you, ordinary people really can't handle this. I've been running for you these days, but I've broken my legs and my mouth. Now it's not as good as before. In the past, when a company came, it was really convenient to send land, I could make the decision myself, and now I have to report it. Lu Feng really doesn't believe this kind of nonsense. If he could handle it, he wouldn't have been so harsh that day. Now that he said he would go out of his way to handle it for himself, there might be some inside story. But the best thing to do is to do it, and don't ask too much about the specifics. You have worked hard, and I will never forget your great kindness and virtue. A good leader like you, little, it is only because of your parents and officials that we can go further, and we have done so much. It's not worth mentioning, it's mainly your strong support that is the driving force for us to move forward. Lu Feng touted, I'll invite you to dinner when you have time. It's just my job, but, you are telling the truth, there is something to communicate more about, and there is another thing. The day after tomorrow we are going to hold a high-end forum on manufacturing and economics and trade, and the leaders of GFN Electronics and GF Trade have noticed, To solve the problem for you effectively, we will hold such a forum temporarily, and send you an invitation letter when the time comes, Deputy Mayor Lu said. Oh, that's great, you really moved me. I have dealt with so many leaders. You are the most considerate I have ever seen. You are so worried about us entrepreneurs. I was moved and wanted to cry. Really, no one cares about us. If we put it elsewhere, no one cares. I feel very warm now. Shenzhen is my home, Lu Feng said with some emotion. Sitting on the side, Lu Cheng felt goosebumps all over him. President Lu can always say some nasty things that others can't say. This is Shenzhen, you understand. In the business environment, we have to be a national leader and solve problems for you entrepreneurs, Vice Mayor Lu said on the phone. I have a meeting, you work hard and give back Shenzhen. Don't worry, I was born in Shenzhen, and died as a ghost in Shenzhen. You are busy first. Brother Feng, it was disgusting, Feng Xiao said embarrassedly. It's all about making money. Lu Feng looked at him and said, it's not shabby. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 676. Lu Feng didn't expect the municipal government to move so quickly. He thought they would intervene, but he didn't expect to intervene in this way, which felt like a show. Lu Cheng took out a contract and handed it to Lu Feng. Mr. Lu, this is the lease contract of the office building, you have to sign it. Lu Feng picked up the pen and signed it directly, then called Zhu Lidong and asked him about the executives of the integrated marketing department coming to Shenzhen. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Huang Angshen's wine party had just dispersed, and everyone was chatting happily. They talked about next year's affairs intentionally or unintentionally. Everyone was tacit, and several companies revealed that they wanted to work together. Next year, the thorns of Jiafeng Electronics will be defeated first, and then Changhong will be worn down from the first position in a few years. These people have courage, and they are very big. Huang Hongsheng left the hotel in the car, drinking a little drunk. The first thing he did when he got back to the hotel was to call Guangfa Trading Agency. I'm Huang Hongsheng, connect me to your President Li's phone, Huang Hongsheng said into the phone. The operator transferred the call to Li Guangfa's office. Li Guangfa answered the phone and said, who is it? It's me, Huang Hongsheng, are you Li Guangfa? Huang Hongsheng asked. Mr. Huang, Li Guangfa was a little surprised. He knew that some companies in the electronics industry gathered today, and someone had called him a long time ago, saying that these people were going to be tied together and fight them to the end. Why are they fighting now? Phone. I'm Li Guangfa, what's the matter? Let me tell you, I had a dinner party at noon today. All the leaders in the industry came, and the ones that didn't arrive were too far to come. We signed a co-advance and retreat agreement. There are a total of 47 restaurants, occupying hundreds of mainstream markets. 90% of the share, Huang Hongsheng said into the phone. Li Guangfa raised his brows, thinking that the other party was calling to put pressure on him with this thing, and snorted coldly, the sales channels are in my hands, you are all the manufacturers united, what can you do? Unite, don't cooperate with me? Then I'll see who can spend more. Mr. Li, that's not what you mean, don't get me wrong, everyone came out to make money, not to get angry, don't you think? We don't have any grudges, business is a matter of discussion, and there is nothing that can't be discussed. Huang Hongsheng, he hurriedly turned his head and said in a relaxed tone, I have such an idea, listen to me. Li Guangfa was stunned for a moment, with a smile on his face. In the past few days, he has been talking to Lu Feng about magic. It seems that the world is black and white. He asked with great interest, Mr. Huang, talk about it. I'm just asking you one thing, is there a huge demand in the international market? Huang Hongsheng asked. We are still talking about it, but I feel that the future market is very large. The products of Jiafeng Electronics are low-end products. When the new products come out next year, they will be welcomed by more national markets. Li Guangfa told the truth. That is, in 1 or 2 years, so many domestic manufacturers can't all eat the meat of export trade, right? Then all the trade agency industries are like Mr. Li, can they open up the international market? Now this channel is all in your hands, what about the future? Although Huang Hongsheng drank wine, his thoughts were very clear. He said, other trade agency companies will find out sooner or later. As long as their interests gradually expand, international manufacturers will reverse course and actively contact other trade agents to increase their profits, I said. Right? Li Guangfa nodded, this is the inevitable development of an industry, and said, that's right. So, your current advantage is monopoly, but this kind of channel monopoly is time sensitive. If you can't maximize your interests in the early stage, you will be eaten by other peers in the later stage. Horizontal competition is the most important competitive relationship. Figure out who is the enemy and who is the collaborator. The more Mr. Huang said, the clearer his thoughts became, and he said loudly on the phone, I think that you can choose some partners in the manufacturing industry. I am talking very well with other manufacturers now. 91 points are indeed a bit ruthless, but you can cooperate with a group of companies and sign a bundle agreement, and I can help you negotiate with companies such as Changhong and Konka, and high-quality products can help you gain a firm foothold in the international market. Li Guangfa thinks this is a good idea. It bundles leading companies in the industry, crowds out peers, and makes his position in international trade more stable. If Mr. Huang can help me negotiate companies like Changhong and Konka, it's not that we can't cooperate. I want to know, what proportion do you plan to do in terms of profit sharing? Li Guangfa asked. I'll negotiate for you. For other companies, I'll talk about 28% of the profit for you. We want 50% to 50%. Mr. Huang expressed his thoughts. 5-5. Li Guangfa felt that it was too much. He coughed in his throat for a while, and said, it's not that you can't agree to the 5 or 5. Do you have requirements for shipments? I want us to prioritize, especially next year. I can't agree to the profit of 5 or 5 points. We can set a suitable ratio and make a profit of 4 or 6 points. Li Guangfa asked tentatively. Huang Hongsheng on the other end of the phone did not agree, but said to think about it again, the specific share and profit sharing ratio, but the two hit it off in terms of cooperation, and both parties have intentions. After hanging up the phone, Huang Hongsheng lay on the bed with a smile on his face. This meal was so worth it, it might be the most worthwhile meal in his life. In the hotel, Su Yurong was constantly on the phone, and the phone was not interrupted all afternoon. The matter about the preliminary drafting of the intended contract finally came to an end. At the same time, Chen Capital held a board of directors in the afternoon. Previously, Su Yurong proposed on the board of directors to change the name of Chen's Capital to United Capital. Some people in the board of directors did not agree, so the proposal was shelved. Su Yurong also knew that he was not big enough and did not make any achievements, and no one in the board of directors would betray him. But now the investment in GFN Electronics is about to be completed, and the board of directors should be serious about her proposal. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Chen's Capital held an incomplete meeting and attended the board of directors. The number of shareholders and the proportion of shares held 76%, meeting the board meeting standards. Then a vote was held, and the renaming of United Capital was approved by multiple votes. The company's name change is for the better development of the company. If the company's name is changed within a month, it should be announced to shareholders. This name change will not affect the actual business content. It is for the long-term development of the company. Su Yurong listened to the voice coming from the phone, a smile appeared on her face, she finally completely erased the last trace of Chen Shifeng. The preliminary intention contract was drawn up in Xiangjiang, and it will be delivered tomorrow. As long as Lu Feng signs it, as a shareholder, they can cooperate with any actions of GFN Electronics. In the afternoon, Lu Feng held a product conference, and reviewed the Viputa TV, the remodeled Golden Leopard VCD, and a series of home appliances that will be launched next year. The overall is very good, especially the two products of TV and VCD, which are simply the first-class level in the industry, that is, the refrigerator is plugged in, the freezing is fine, and the refrigeration is not too cold. The reason given by Lyokan is that every time the temperature of the refrigerator is lowered by 1 degree, the power consumption is too much, and it is a last resort to save electricity. Current users are very concerned about the power consumption of products, and must make trade-offs in this regard. Feng Xiao wandered around the refrigerator and wondered, "Brother Feng, this refrigerator looks familiar to me. When I think about it, isn't this model copied from Siemens?" "What plagiarism?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "This is a tribute. We did use some design language of international big names, mainly to help them publicize this design beauty. In fact, some of their lines are used to match. We have no benefit, people will know it is Siemens at a glance, and the ultimate beneficiary is still them. Of course, we don't ask them for any publicity fees, we are just doing good deeds." Lu Cheng couldn't stand it anymore, he lowered his head and didn't speak, his face was really not that thick. Feng Xiao wanted to say something, opened his mouth, he had nothing to say. In fact, Lu Feng can also design the appearance of some future refrigerators, but each era has the style of another era. In addition, the materials are different, and the textures are different. The most important thing is that now there are so many products, he can't do everything. All operate by themselves. The main reason is that Lu Feng doesn't care. The current refrigerator market is not big. There are not many households, and the competition is fierce. It is not the main business of GFN Electronics. Besides, how much money can you make by selling a broken refrigerator? After 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng drove back to the hotel. Having dinner in the restaurant, Lu Feng asked casually, "Which floor do you live on?" "I originally wanted to live next door to you, but someone lived next door to you." "Your floor is full, so I'll live on the next floor," Feng Xiao said without raising his head. "Okay, it's not too far away, rest early after dinner. Boss Wei and the others will come tomorrow, as will the financial people. You can find out more and call your dad when you go back in the evening," Lu Feng ordered. Feng Xiao raised his head and stared at Lu Feng and said, "Brother Feng, I don't want to chat with you as an investor, don't you just want to reassure my dad?" "Brother Feng, in fact, I have been a little dissatisfied with you for a long time. You can't invest in you because my dad is rich, and you have to behave like you are fighting for him. I especially like the free spirit in you, so what if you have money? Isn't it as free and easy as you? How about being rich?" "Rich?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "I'm not trying to please your father, but mainly to make your father feel at ease with me. Who wouldn't be nervous about investing so much money? I can't bear to worry too much about the situation, I can't bear to let an old man at such an age have to worry about it, you should know better than me as a child." Feng Xiao suddenly felt that what Lu Feng said made sense. Dad saw that his body was getting worse day by day, and he was still ignorant. He nodded with some emotion and said, "I will." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 677. Lu Feng was eating and chatting with him a lot of his parents, hoping that he would understand something. Parents are getting old day by day, and the time to get along has entered the countdown. Filial piety cannot wait. Lu Feng burst into tears at what Feng Xiao said during the meal, kept nodding and blowing his nose several times. When Feng Xiao returned to the bedroom, he called Mr. Feng. After the call was connected, he choked up a bit. "Dad, how are you today? I suddenly felt selfish and never considered your feelings. I'm still young, but you're old, and I don't know how many times I'll see you again. Which parent is not moved when they hear such words? At that moment, I suddenly felt that my child had grown up, and I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction in my heart. Mr. Feng leaned back on the chair and said, "It's okay, as long as you are well, Dad will be happy. You three brothers, Dad is the best. I hurt you, and you are the most noisy. What happened to you today? You suddenly said these words. Brother Feng told me that filial piety can't wait. I should listen to you. With your current physical condition, I'm afraid that it will suddenly disappear." Feng Xiao choked again as he spoke. Mr. Feng was stupid. There was only one sentence left in his mind. Lu Feng said that he was dying? Damn, is he looking forward to it? Son, don't cry. Dad is in good health. Don't listen to his nonsense. If you're sensible, I'll be happy. If I'm happy, I can live a few more years. It's not a problem to see you get married and have children, Mr. Feng comforted him. After a while, he asked, "What did you do today?" "A lot of things happened. I'm a little disappointed with Brother Feng. He didn't feel sad when he left Sister Xiao Yan. I said I introduced my cousin to him, and he was still happy. He asked me how I was. At noon, after having a meal, basically the chairman of the board of directors of the industry gathered together. Also, their refrigerators, air conditioners, new TV sets, etc. already have samples. The only bad thing is that some of the appearance designs are plagiarized. Foreign brands. He seems to be very confident about overseas trade. I asked him, but he didn't tell me that those executives will come over tomorrow and are busy with group formation. He wants a piece of free land from the municipality. That flattery, I can't stand it anymore, and also, if someone from the finance department comes tomorrow and wants me to check the accounts, I can go and have a look." Feng Xiao sighed and said, "I'm a little disappointed in him." Disappointment. What he said did not disappoint the capital at all. He did all the good things, and the state was very good. It could be called perfect. Mr. Feng was a little suspicious. Is Lu Feng really perfect to this point? He felt that he might have made a mistake in sending Feng Xiao to the past. Feng Xiao was too immature, and Lu Feng could see at a glance what he was here for. These performances were for himself. But if Lu Feng can really continue to pretend, he doesn't have to worry too much. The father and son talked about other things. Lu Feng just returned to the room. Su Yorong walked out and rang the doorbell of Lu Feng's room. "Who is it?" Lu Feng turned around and asked. Su Yorong was afraid that Feng Xiao would be in the room, so he coughed and said softly, "The technician is coming." Lu Feng frowned and said, "No need." Before Su Yorong could speak, the opposite door opened. A man in his 40s stuck his head out and glanced at Su Yorong, and said, "Come here, I want it." "Roll." "It's me," Su Yorong said, letting go. Lu Feng walked to the door and opened the door. When he saw Su Yorong, he turned around and entered the house. He saw that Su Yorong was about to go in, and hurriedly said, "Sister, I'll add more money, will 500 be enough?" "Are you sick? Get out." 1,000. 1,000 will do. Go to Nima." Su Yorong closed the door casually. Tisk tisk tisk, Lu Feng smacked his lips, sat down and looked at her and said, "You said that the current price is 1,000 yuan, how much I like you, ordinary people's salary for 3 or 4 months. I'll give you 10,000. I'll stay here tonight." "Okay," Su Yorong stared at Lu Feng, her face a little unsightly. "You can pull it down. If you want to replace me with hundreds of millions of dollars for 10,000 yuan, there is no door," Lu Feng said angrily. "A few hundred million? I didn't say you would give me a few hundred million." She seemed to have come to terms with what she said. She rolled her eyes at Lu Feng, sat down and put the preliminary letter of intent in her hand on the table. opened his mouth and said, "It happened suddenly. After the order was made, I copied it over the phone and printed it here. You sign and stamp it first, and then I take it back to Xiangjiang and sign and stamp it." Lu Feng picked up the preliminary letter of intent and looked at it. Basically, there were no major problems. The funds had increased from 1 billion to 105 million, an increase of 50 million. "Why is there only 50 million more?" Lu Feng looked up at her and asked. "What I said at the time was 50 million to 100 million. It's not easy to add 50 million. That's 50 million, not 50 cents. By the way, you have to give me more rebates for the 50 million. This is purely a temporary increase, you have to give me 20 million. Su Yorong stretched out 2 fingers. 20 million? That means, a total of 70 million in rebates. Lu Feng put down the contract and said speechlessly, "When it comes to making money, you are still ruthless. The 50 million is added money for no reason. Think about it, you think that after GFN Electronics opened up international trade, its valuation has skyrocketed, but if you want to open up international trade, you have to go through me to contact those companies." "In my hand," Su Yorong said with a confident look. "Didn't you also be promoted by me? You are now the head of Hurricane Capital. If I dismiss you, you will not be eligible to be the executive director of Chen's Capital," Lu Feng said solemnly. "If you withdraw me, then you will definitely not get the investment, and Sun Hongkai will absolutely control you in the future," Su Yorong retorted. "Stop, stop," Lu Feng raised his hand and didn't want to break up with her. It was a mess, and he breathed a sigh of relief. "I signed it, I can't do it." Lu Feng picked up the pen and signed his name, put the contract on the table, and said, "I will go to the company to get the seal tomorrow, and I will give it to you. You can go back now." "I'll wait a while," Su Yorong said with a smile. "Oh, by the way, those companies not only have to be contacted, but also registered companies in Dubai and luxury hotels have to be arranged. It's scheduled in a week. It's better to find a few local foreigners, such as British people," Lu Feng pondered. "What the hell are you doing?" Su Yorong asked with a puzzled face. "Go to the execution, don't ask what you shouldn't ask, that's all. Go back to your house first, in case Feng Xiao comes looking for it, and I can't explain it." "I just said he was crying and called his father." Lu Feng said that he stood up and grabbed her shoulders, trying to make her stand up. "You hurt me, oh, don't do this." Su Yorong began to act like a spoiled child. Lu Feng let go of his hand and looked at her, and said, "You're so disgusting." Feng Xiao talked a lot on the phone. Regarding the overseas export agency, Mr. Feng still felt that there was a risk. In addition to the meal, he thought that Lu Feng was very likely to be sold by the entire industry, so Feng Xiao asked him, "If it really doesn't work, help him inquire about those companies and find a way out." Feng Xiao put down the phone, took the elevator upstairs, and strode towards Lu Feng's room. "Go back to your room, don't do this shit. I still know who you are. You're a 1,000-year-old fox, so don't make this shit." Lu Feng looked at Su Yorong, stretched out his hand and pulled her arm, pull up and push towards the door. "Why are you like this? You promised to come down that day, such a big boss. It's not worth talking about, bullying my little girl." Su Yorong whimpered. "How the hell are you older than me, little girl? Let's go, I've been busy these days." "Another day." Lu Feng pushed her towards the door. Walking to the door, Su Yorong was about to speak when there was a knock on the door, and they both froze in place for a moment. "Brother Feng, I have something to do with you, open the door." Feng Xiao's voice came from outside the door. Su Yorong's back was shivering in shock. She stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes. She didn't dare to take a breath. Lu Feng was also a little stunned, and said, "Then I'm taking a shower, what's the matter? Let's talk about it tomorrow." "It's okay, you open the door, I'll go in and wait." Feng Xiao said nothing. "I'm going to sleep." What time is it? Soon, you open the door first. Lu Feng knew that it would be impossible not to open the door, and then he refused. He told Mr. Feng that he was afraid that Mr. Feng would suspect something. Lu Feng pointed at the door and motioned for Su Yurong to stand at the door. He opened a crack in the door that was big enough to put his head out, stuck his head out, looked at Feng Xiao and asked, "What's the matter? In such a hurry?" Feng Xiao didn't expect him to be like this. He was stunned for a moment and said, "Can't I go in? It's all taken off. I'm very tired today. I've washed and slept." "If you have something to say, hurry up," Lu Feng said eagerly towards him. "That's the one." Su Yurong stood at the door, looking at Lu Feng's body inside. She suddenly thought of something, with a smile on her face. While Feng Xiao was talking, Lu Feng nodded and said, "I know this one myself. I can't rely on investors for everything. Today's foreign trade can't be settled, but your dad will help you find a relationship to solve it, and I won't understand anything else tomorrow." "Your dad solved it again, this matter, HS." Lu Feng suddenly gasped and his face changed suddenly. "Brother Feng, what's wrong with you? Your face doesn't seem right," Feng Xiao asked concerned. It's okay, I can handle this myself. I still have the ability. I already have a solution. Thank you Mr. Feng for your concern. It's not too early, you can get back to your dad, a phone call and an early rest. There are still a lot of things to do tomorrow," Lu Feng said to him. "Brother Feng, are you really okay? Why don't you go to the hospital? Your face is red and white for a while," Feng Xiao worried. "It's alright, the bath was hot, it's okay, you can go back first," Lu Feng persuaded. "Why do you feel weird?" Feng Xiao muttered, but he didn't think much about it and was about to turn his head and leave. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 678. As Lu Feng watched Feng Xiao leave, he breathed a sigh of relief, closed the door, picked Su Yurong up, stared at her and asked, "Is it interesting?" "It's fun." Su Yurong raised an eyebrow. Su Yurong was completely rude. As a woman, Lu Feng couldn't do anything to her. This mangy dog-like behavior made people extremely helpless. "Okay, let's go back to the house and rest. I'll give you the contract tomorrow. It's more important," Lu Feng said to her. "Don't delay the business." Su Yurong leaned against the door with a playful expression. "Go wash." "How many times do you want me to say it seriously?" Lu Feng stared at her with a serious face, and said solemnly, "This relationship is meaningless at all. It is of no use to our cooperation and trust. Do it well. Your business is better than anything else. The more you don't let me play, the more I want to play. If you let me play enough, I'll pester you." Su Yurong pulled Lu Feng's hand and said, "Look at those old couples, not all are tired of playing. We have come here 1,800 times, if you look for me, I will hide from you." "It, pay it back 1,800 times," Lu Feng said, opened the door and pushed her out. This woman wanted to bind herself with this relationship all day long. Closing the door, Lu Feng glanced at the time. It was time to take a shower, so he took off his shirt and went straight into the bathroom. Su Yurong's relationship with Lu Feng was not entirely because of cooperation. Men and women are the same. Conquest is an invisible desire hidden in the depths of the heart. A person who cannot get it is like a high mountain. Only after going through untold hardships to climb to the peak can you feel more fulfilled. What's the point of a hill that can be easily climbed? Perhaps, this is also the reason why men don't like flat-chested girls. Su Yurong felt a little unhappy when she returned to the room. Why didn't she welcome him like that? Damn, I don't believe it anymore. Su Yurong thought of a trick, called the front desk and asked a waiter to come. After a while, a waiter came and knocked on the door. "What can I do for you?" "Let you do something for me. Go to the next floor to find a gentleman named Feng Xiao, and tell him that Lu Feng is looking for him and ask him to come to the room," Su Yurong ordered. "Okay," the waiter said, turning his head and leaving. After Su Yurong gave her instructions, she went to Lu Feng's door and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Lu Feng was taking a shower. "Tell me 2 clauses in the contract and open the door." "Have a bath." "Let's talk tomorrow, go to bed earlier." Lu Feng shouted with white foam on his head. "You washed you, I'm not joking with you, it's serious business," Su Yurong said in a very serious voice. Lu Feng also had no choice, so he walked out around a bath towel, and opened the door. Su Yurong, like a slippery fish, got in, and looked at Lu Feng's solid back. Eager. "Do you want me to rub your back for you?" Su Yurong asked. "Stop talking, where do you want to rub? I'll just rush." Lu Feng entered the bathroom and closed the door. Su Yurong opened the bathroom door, stood at the door and said, "By the way, the company mentioned in Clause 4 refers to Chen's capital. The board of directors passed a resolution to change Chen's capital to United Capital. Also rush, it's all foam." Lu Feng raised his head, saw her, and shouted, "Get out. It's not like I haven't seen it before, what are you staring at? You think I'm dirty?" Su Yurong's face became ugly, and he asked, "What do you mean by being so disgusted?" "No, I don't want to have that relationship. I don't have that relationship now. I'm sticking to you. Let me tell you, I won't hold you back, and you're not that good. Don't think too much of yourself, everyone is using each other, as if you are superior to others. Like, I can tell you very seriously, we are very pure." Su Yurong's expression was gloomy, and she seemed to be a little annoyed, and started to undress as she spoke. Lu Feng was taken aback by her actions, but he realized that he was no longer wearing an inch coat. He took the bath towel and grabbed Lu Feng's arm violently. "I'm used to it." Before Lu Feng could react, she was already rubbing it. "The back is pretty solid, the shoulders, the waist, the butt." Su Yurong praised. "What the hell are you doing?" Lu Feng was helpless, and sighed, "Why bother? Come on, go back, don't mess around." Just as Su Yurong was about to speak, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" Lu Feng was a little depressed. Why didn't he stop this night? "Brother Feng, it's me," Feng Xiao's voice came. "What's the matter?" Lu Feng stuck his head out of the bathroom and asked, "Why don't we talk about it tomorrow?" "Didn't you ask me to come?" Feng Xiao asked, a little puzzled. "I didn't call you." Lu Feng looked at Su Yurong beside him. "The waiter said you asked me to come. Also, I think your face is not right. Why don't you go to the hospital to have a look? Don't have any health problems at this time." "Open the door." Feng Xiao knocked on the door again. "I'm taking a shower, it's not very convenient." "Also take a bath?" Feng Xiao glanced at the watch on his wrist. He felt that Brother Feng had really changed. He seemed to be too far away from himself. He had been in this bath for almost 2 hours. "Brother Feng, you open the door, I'll go in, and I'll talk to you." Feng Xiao felt an indescribable loss in his heart. The kind of person who he looked up to and admired, separated him overnight, and couldn't tell the taste. "Not very convenient," Lu Feng refused. Su Yurong patted Lu Feng's back and whispered, "After washing, just wipe it off." Lu Feng walked out around the bath towel and said towards the door, "Maybe the waiter made a mistake, you should rest early, that's all." Su Yurong glanced at the door, and she could feel that Feng Xiao had a lot of trust in Lu Feng, the kind of unconditional trust and attachment that adults no longer have in adulthood. She was still somewhat resentful towards the Feng family, and suddenly said, "It's inconvenient to say that." Feng Xiao froze on the spot when he heard a woman's voice coming from the room. He already understood that Lu Feng's image collapsed in his heart in an instant. I'm not worth it for Sister Xiao Yan, Feng Xiao roared, turned his head and left. Why don't you just send it away? Su Yorong smiled slightly, stretched out his arms around Lu Feng's waist, and said in a low voice, I haven't wiped off the water, so I'll give you a rub. Oops. With an exclamation, she pushed Lu Feng straight back, and when she reached the bedside, she fell directly on the bed, took advantage of the situation and pressed on, giggled, and said happily, where are you going? The night is drowsy, and many are omitted. When Feng Xiao returned to his room, he just thought how could he feel that such a person is the happiest person in the world. Feeling a little uncomfortable, Feng Xiao picked up the phone and called his father. After connecting, Mr. Feng asked, what's wrong? There is a woman in Brother Feng's room. I feel that it is because of this woman that I divorced Sister Xiao Yan. You don't know, Sister Xiao Yan is a very good woman. On the phone, Feng Xiao praised Zhang Xiao Yan, a simple and honest woman. A woman who loves, is selfless, does not seek fame and wealth, and does not seek wealth. Mr. Feng knew that his son was born in wealth and honor, but he never liked wealth and honor. Instead, he liked to pursue that kind of ordinary and great ethereal life. It is reasonable for him to praise Zhang Xiao Yan so much, but Mr. Feng is very happy. A heart is finally put into his stomach. There is a woman in Lu Feng's house looking for fun, which means that he has a good state of mind and a good state. What else do you have to worry about? Men, it's normal, you should rest early. Mr. Feng thought for a while and said, by the way, he said that he can solve the problem of overseas trade. You take the time to ask him what specific solutions, the more secure the better. After hanging up the phone, Zhenkan whispered, you can rest assured this time. I can sleep well. Mr. Feng stood up, and Zhenkan next to him stretched out his hand to help him. He waved his hand and said, go to rest early. The next day, many newspapers in the city published news about the high-end forum on manufacturing and economics and trade. At the same time, they also called on both sides to calm down, focus on talks, and focus on the livelihood of enterprises. And last night, we have sent invitation letters to many companies in the industry, and we will be able to gather together tomorrow. In the restaurant, Lu Feng was eating breakfast, sitting across from Feng Xiao without saying a word. Lu Feng looked at him and said, what happened to you? You shouted last night, I really didn't tell you to go. I don't want to say that, I just think that I have had some unrealistic fantasies that many people think do not exist, but I found a shadow in you. The whole world is looking at money, including my dad. If there is no love, women can change at will. I didn't expect you to be the same. Feng Xiao said, slightly disappointed. You misunderstood. We were discussing the contract last night, don't think too much. Lu Feng made a fool of himself. Huang Hongsheng talked to Li Guangfa. Others are not fools. Everyone knows how to go in the future. Several companies have privately called Li Guangfa to see if they can break through, or contact other companies. Seeing that the two sides are ready to fight, the atmosphere is tense, as if the slightest friction means the two armies are fighting each other, and they will never die. What can we talk about in this forum tomorrow? Lu Feng really feels that there is nothing to talk about. The profit is 91%, and the channel is in the hands of others. It is absolutely impossible for others to earn less money. If other manufacturers want to get more profit, they have to find a fool to take this one. Divided profits are filled. But these days, where to find fools? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 679. Wei Yandan and the others have already arrived, and the first batch of staff have also arrived and started to organize and plan the office building. There used to be some desks, chairs, and benches in the office building. In addition, the first batch of staff members were all senior executives, and there were not many people. First organized a conference room. The R/U0026D company hung up a banner today, which said warmly welcome GFN Electronics brothers to come and know. At 9 o'clock, Lu Feng arrived at the company, and the living room was already full of people. He discussed the current foreign trade situation the most. This piece originally belonged to Zhu Lidong's management, but when he heard the situation, there was nothing he could do. He understands the domestic market, but he knows nothing about the international market. Wei Yandan sat on the sofa and flipped through the report, glanced at the others, and asked, "If Mr. Lu asks about foreign trade exports in a while, what should I say? I have researched a lot these days, and I have also found some people from relevant parties asked for advice, but still couldn't find a way out." Everyone turned their gazes to Zhu Lidong. Since Zhang Fengxia left, Zhu Lidong is definitely a veteran-level figure. Cough, cough, Zhu Lidong said after clearing his throat, "Don't look at me, this has always been the responsibility of President Lu. He is in charge of things that most people can't do. President Wei, don't worry too much. I'll ask you this question. Mr. Lu usually doesn't ask too difficult things, it's his job," another person said. "Yes, I often read the report and ask about the situation. As long as it runs normally, there is no major problem, and I basically don't care," another humane said. Wei Yandan is still a little uneasy. If she used to be in charge of a media company, that's true. Now she is the company's executive president, so she must be sure of the company's future development direction. And she never stayed with Zhang Fengxia, so she didn't know how the two got along in the past. After the group was formed, Lu Feng would definitely stay at the head office. It's normal for Wei Yandan to be clueless. In fact, the senior management of the general company is better. After the executive finds the direction, the implementation plan is determined, and then the promotion is carried out. If the general direction is correct, the life will be very relaxed, have a meeting, drink tea, and press a massage. Lu Feng is different. The development speed of GFN Electronics is beyond the reach of ordinary managers, and there is no other company that develops so quickly and comprehensively. Many executives are doing things while learning. Seeing that everyone was a little nervous, Zhu Lidong thought about it and gave them a vaccination, and said, "Actually, everyone doesn't need to be so nervous, as long as it's not within their duties. If he wants to ask, you don't understand, just don't know." Already. Everyone looked at each other and felt that Zhu Lidong was not joking. The door of the living room was pushed open, and Lu Cheng walked in and said, "Mr. Lu is here, let's all go to the conference room." Everyone stood up and walked towards the conference room. In the office, Lu Feng flipped through the folder in his hand. This year's financial situation has basically come out. There won't be much changes in the next few months. It's almost November. The war, this kind of competition has been going on for several years, and there is no big splash. The sales volume of VCD has exceeded 4 million units, accounting for about 70% of the market share. It can be said that it is very stable. The net profit brought by VCD is 300 million. Higher. As of October, the overall loss of Vipta is close to 80 million. For a whole year, Vipta has been living in the corner of the township. It can be said that it was beaten to the ground by other manufacturers in terms of TV sets. The revenue of small appliances such as radios and tape players is slightly better than nothing. The overall net profit is 22.46 million. The most eye-catching is the media company, which was established at the beginning of the year and has introduced 17 stars from the Hong Kong area for cooperation. Hosted 125 concerts, cooperated with CCTV, sent 9 stars to the show, and introduced 76 high box office films in Hong Kong. The Disc Production Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of the media company, sold 18 million discs. Less than a year after its establishment, the net profit exceeded 80 million. There are also subordinate copper companies, production plants, plastic mold companies and other industrial chain companies. Now GFN Electronics has achieved 30% self-sufficiency in the industrial chain. There are many companies that make money, but there are also a lot of people who lose money. After pulling back and forth like this, there is a total of more than 300 million yuan left in the account. This is the way to start a company. There is a meeting in your office, and I am happy to tell you, congratulations, boss, you have done nothing this year. The revenue of more than 300 million yuan is already very powerful, and it is definitely the top of the private enterprises. This is why Lu Feng is anxious to form a group company. Lu Feng handed the folder to Feng Xiao, who took it and looked at it. The office door was pushed open, and Lu Cheng walked in and said, "Mr. Lu, everyone is gathered in the conference room. Let's go, have a word with everyone." Lu Feng stood up and straightened his suit, then strode towards the conference room. A clerk standing at the door saw Lu Feng approaching, and hurriedly helped push the door open. As Lu Feng stepped into the conference room, everyone present stood up one after another. Sit down, sit down." Lu Feng raised his hand and pressed it down, sat in his seat, looked around at the crowd, and said, "I took a cursory look at the reports of the major companies, although there are still it's not over yet, but there shouldn't be too many problems in the remaining 2 months, and I'm very satisfied overall. It can be seen that everyone is working very hard. I'm here to applaud everyone." Lu Feng clapped his hands as he spoke, and there was applause from the scene. The applause fell, and Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said, "The main shortcoming of this year is the WIPITA TV, which is also expected at the beginning of the year for WIPITA's losses. The feedback from the market tells us a truth, that is, there is no research and development. No, R/U0026D is the father. R/U0026D is the mother. Only by developing new products can we lead the market forward." Lu Feng looked at Lu Cheng and continued, "This year's R/U0026D company has grown very rapidly, and Mr. Lu has done a very good job in this regard. The new WIPITA TVs are not inferior to any domestic manufacturer in terms of product power. And we have figured out a path of our own. This year's 100 million flowers are very worthwhile, and next year's budget will be further increased. I can say that the budget for research and development, as long as we can produce something, there is no upper limit." Everyone at the scene clapped their hands and looked at Liukin without much blessing. The profit of a company is limited, and there are many subordinate companies and departments, and there are many places that need a budget. Liukin takes more money, but other departments take less. Less money and more work, they are not easy to manage the people below. The department has a sufficient budget, travel subsidies, usually go out to parties, raise wages for some key employees to attract people, holidays hire something small or something, are very generous. That, Mr. Lu, Zhu Lidan couldn't help but said, "Next year, WIPITA will be launched, and the investment in advertising will increase, and the offline channels will be improved. We will cooperate with the transportation company in all aspects of transportation and budget. It might be bigger. When the time comes, you can make a report for me, and I'll take a look." Lu Feng said to the crowd, "Our company earns more money and spends more money. There are still 2 months until the end of this year. According to the current situation, look, there should be no problem with a profit of 400 million, and there is 400 million on the account, which is really comfortable enough for a company. But we can't do it. The land of the group building is being approved and the building will be built soon. I feel that the bank loan will not give too much, and it is not impossible to fill tens of millions of 100 million in it myself. Next year, we will be on 2 battlefields. Domestic battlefield and overseas battlefield. This year is difficult, but I want to tell you that next year will be even harder, 10 times harder than this year." When everyone heard this, they raised their heads and stared at Lu Feng. "This year is hard enough, but next year is 10 times harder?" Everyone's face is full of panic. Will they live next year? Only Zhu Lidong was very calm. Lu Feng said that we would move to Mars as a group next year. He wasn't surprised. Everything that came out of this man's mouth seemed so unremarkable. The domestic home appliance array battle will be very bad next year, but I don't think it should be under my control. If I continue to control it, it will be your Zhu Lidong's shame. Lu Feng looked at Zhu Lidong and said, "You followed me. For so many years, I have basically taught you how to do it. You must have your own understanding of the general direction, and you must learn to compete in the market. Mr. Lu, I must live up to your high expectations. It is the budget of the marketing department for next year. Now that the market channels are very wide, the channels in major provinces have been rolled out, and the rest is advertising. We must learn to use internal resources and cooperate more with media companies." Lu Feng fumbled for a cigarette from his pocket and lit it. Yi said, "Let's not deal with the marketing department of the overseas market. I will be responsible for it alone. Next year, we will work hard, and work hard. We must achieve first-class results domestically, and internationally, we must go out and seek new markets. As for the issue of foreign trade export being strangled, it's not a big deal. If nothing else happens, at the end of this year, I can handle it myself. There is also a group, and the nature of the company will be changed in the near future, and it will be Jiafeng after the change. The electronic holding group company, the leased office building, will settle in as soon as possible, and all major subsidiaries will be completed before the end of this year. Lu Feng knows that once the group is formed, it will decentralize the subordinate enterprises. The general managers of the major factories are the kings of the mountains. Under this model, the most likely thing is to lose control. Hands and feet. In terms of finance, we expanded a department at the group headquarters, created an audit team, recruited some excellent audit personnel, and conducted unscheduled financial surprise reviews of subordinate companies." Lu Feng said solemnly, "This is right. The company is responsible, and it is also responsible to the investors.